All right, you are live, 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 live. Now I just give it a few seconds to go live on Facebook and on YouTube. We are live on Facebook. We are live on Facebook. And we are live on YouTube, folks. So that's good. All right. We are live. So get that rolling real fast. We got 8:01. Usually between 8:03 and 8:05 is whenever. That's why I'm just checking. Both are on. Everybody can see me. This is everybody's favorite part of the show, anyways. That whole 2 minutes of me making sure that I am on and I'm not, talking to myself, which most of the time I do. That's okay.
You still doing DJ stuff?
No.
Karaoke? None of that?
They can't afford me anymore.
Oh, okay.
No, there was a place up here I went to and had fun. Like, I didn't do anything. I just sang up there, and they're like, "Wow, you're a lot of fun." I was like, "Thanks."
Yeah, guilty.
Yeah, I know. I'm a fun guy. What can I say?
I know. You were the most fun cop in Leesburg, if I recall.
I try. All right, let's see if I can edit live video. Can I edit? No, I don't think I can. I'm trying to figure out how to tag you on lives. That's the part I don't know how to do. I mean, but all right, we got it going on. Let's get this rolling. Here we go.
Okay.
So,
ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to welcome you to the Geeks of Bel Air. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, the Duke of Bel Air.
I never get tired of that.
No, I never will either.
Yeah, and that's of course Josh Leggett. Shout out to Josh Leggett. Been friends with him since 6th grade. The man of many voices, the voice talent. So it's the one thing about being me, I guess. You don't lose friends. You keep them around, and you got some interesting ones. I'm just trying to figure out where my video went. It's not showing up. It says we're live. All right, everybody else is there. They can see me, so that's good. I don't see it, so I do apologize that I can't do this. Yeah, my live went. Yeah, it went away. The live. I don't know why. Anybody else see it? Can you? This is dumb. I hate this thing. It works so good. And then sometimes it's just like, no, we're not going to work today. All right, let's see. All right, we are live. We're good. We're good. Sorry about that. Sometimes it's user error. Sometimes it's user error. But anyway, so welcome, guys. Welcome. My guest today is Mr. Roger Rice. That's this strapping young man in the video with me. He is, as it says, as I've been talking about, one of the most influential people in my high school career. And growing up, we've in my show we've talked about family, friends, parents being very influential, but to have a teacher that has no relation to you, and in this case had no experience with my older siblings, it was nice, So I had this awesome teacher that just really was just a guidance, that I'm like, wow, this guy's really cool. I got to be like this, so I need to stay on this path. I don't want to go off over here. But so I met Coach Rice and my 9th grade year for football.
It's been a minute since I heard somebody call me Coach Rice, let me tell you.
Coach Rice. And so that was 1998 for freshman football year. Do you remember freshman football of our class, 1998?
You talking to me?
Yeah. When did you start teaching at Leesburg?
I got hired like October 15th, 1997. So
Okay.
I'd been a teacher for less than a year but since I'd been on a football team in college for a little while, they immediately those days made new young male teachers coach something. And when they found out about that, they had me coaching softball, which I didn't know anything about, and football, of course.
Yeah. I remember coming in, and growing up in South Florida, my dad always coached my football, baseball, soccer, every sport we played. My dad was always a coach, and my dad always taught me, if you're not the best, that's okay. Then move out of that position to something else, So as I got older and taller and bigger, I used to, in flag football as a kid, I was running, but he taught me how to be a center because every kid kept dropping the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And so he taught me how to be a center. And when I got into elementary school, middle school for Pee Wee football, I was a center because he's like, anybody know how to be a center? I do. No one ever raises their hand.
It's one of the most important jobs on the team. A lot of people don't realize it. Touch the ball and play.
Yeah, and no one ever raises their hand. But my dad taught me, hey, you're not fast. You're good, but you're not fast. So you are tall, but he always would call me stone hands because he's like, man, you catch every single ball and then you drop it. So his rule was, if you're touching the ball, you should catch it. I mean, it's plain and simple. If you can touch it, you can catch it. So he taught me how to be a center. And so 9th grade, they're like, anybody know how to be a center, snap a ball? I do, and I mean, that was it. Everybody, all right, let's line up on him.
Yeah, we had a lot of good times.
Yeah, we did. It was, and freshman football is always interesting because everybody makes the grade to play freshman ball. It's
we
had
sophomore. 86.
Yeah,
we had 86 boys come out that year just for freshman ball, and within a couple of weeks, it was down to 50. And by the end of the season, it was down to we could barely get a team on the field.
Yeah. But we were. I remember we scored the first point in like 9 years, and then we also won the first game in so many years too. That was exciting. It was glory days.
Yeah.
But I remember after freshman, they moved me up to JV.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was a long snapper at JV.
Wow.
And then after JV, they moved me up to varsity. And I was just a hitting dummy. But I remember the coach. Woo, I forget his name.
It was Coach Cottle. He was there, Buddy Lowe.
It was not Lowe wasn't there anymore. It was the bald guy, and his son went to Teferi's. His son didn't even play for us.
I don't remember.
I can't think of his name. Somebody will say it.
Coach O'Hara.
Coach O'Hara. Yes, thank you, thank you, Coach O'Hara.
I still see his son Seth because he's been coaching for years, and he coached all over Lake County, at least a couple of schools, and he also does weightlifting. And my daughter was a regional finalist for weightlifting, and we still see each other. I see Coach O'Hara occasionally, I like to remind him what a great mentor he was to me.
Yeah. I remember I walked on the field my freshman year, and he said, "Hey, big boy, come here. What are they feeding you?" And I was like, "Hello, sir." He's like, "How tall are you?" I was like, "I don't know." He's like, "I'm like 6 foot, maybe." He's like, "Yeah, you're that's 6'2", 6'3". You're a big boy. He said, "Look at you." He said, "What position you play?" I said, "Center." He said, "Oh, we got a center. He's a senior. You're not taking his spot." I said, he said, "You want to come play on varsity? I'm going to play freshman and get some playing time, if that's all right with you." He's like, "Absolutely."
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, he said, "Hey, you're playing JV." And when I was done with JV, because remember the seasons weren't as long.
Yeah.
Varsity was longer.
Moved up.
My freshman year I was playing varsity, and
Mm.
I got in like twice, both times as a nose guard. Because
Nice.
I said, "Hey, can I get in there? Because I know what to do." All you have to do is watch that ball. I don't have to listen to anything. I'm just watching that ball.
Yeah.
As soon as he moves. But yeah, that was, that's ninth grade. It's, you're in high school, but you were just this really cool coach at that time to me. But you had respect for us, but you would blow that whistle so fast and make us do up downs. I think the millennials call them burpees, but we call them up downs because that's what they
or
were.
down ups. Depends on
Down
what
up.
side of the body you're on.
Down.
Yeah.
But that whistle, whew, it was like you had an adult that gave you respect, but you had to give them respect too.
Yeah.
But you would, you would check, you would know, oh, why is this guy slagging today? Hey, what's going on? Pick it up. Everything good? So you weren't trying to be our best friends, like those kind of people. Like I always say, those adults that want to be your best friends and are terrible for you, especially in that age. No. You don't need an adult best friend. You need somebody that's like,
that was one of the first lessons I ever had with Coach O'Hara was he's like, you need to calm down, Rice. You don't have to yell at kids to get them to do what you want. And that was not just a good lesson for me on the coaching field, but also in the classroom. And you also too, Travis, I mean, dang, I was coaching freshmen, JV, and on Friday nights I was with the varsity. So, I spent so much time with you guys, probably more than your families did, to be honest with you. You throw a couple 6-7 hours a week in the classroom, plus on the football field, locker rooms, on the bus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then spring football came in, and
mm-hmm.
And then sophomore year, one of my favorite stories was this big freshman. And if you were from Leesburg, you knew the name B. Hooks.
Brandon Hooks.
He was just all
amazing.
Muscle, so fast.
Mm-hmm.
And we were doing the hitting drills, and he just ran right through me. And he was like, "Okay, I got this," and he walked away. And that's when I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Here, you hold the ball this time. Wait. You just gave it to me. You just knocked me out of my shoes. I get it.
You give me a turn.
Now it's my turn. Yeah. That's not how this works, freshman. And I laid him out, and I pulled him up, and he's like, "Okay." And years later, down the road, when I was a police officer, he had a warrant out, and it was for child support. Lake County loves to give males warrants for child support, but not the other way around. Just for my, whoa. But and I saw they were going for him because him and the law didn't get along at this time in life, and but I always knew him as we had that mutual respect. When you meet somebody on the football field like that, and you spend that, like you said, that much time with somebody,
you make a connection.
Yeah, and so I saw him, and I got out of the car, and I said, "B," and he looked at me, goes, "What up, Trap?" And I said, listen, you can run, but they're right there coming. You got a child support warrant. I think you
Put
should
in
just turn
jail.
around, put your hands behind your back. I'll put handcuffs on you and I'll take you. Ain't nobody going to put you on the ground. Nothing. And he's like, all right. And he turned around, put his hands, and it's all on my video because it's in front of the cop car. And I said, respect. It's child support warrant, man. Stupid. He said, I pay her. I just didn't pay it to the county. I was like, I know, you have to pay them because she ain't telling them.
No.
That's free money. So he gets in the back of my car, and I called it that I had him arrested, and the SWAT team and those guys were like, "Hey, what happened?" I was like, "What?"
Yeah,
I
they're
just
looking forward to
told him-
hooking somebody up.
Yes, I told him to turn around, put his hands behind his back, and he did not listen. I said, "Yeah, you." And when you watch the video, they're like, "How? What?" I was like, "Cuz we played football together, and that those kind of things. You have those, like I said, we never hung out. I knew who he was, and that was the first time I seen him since high school. You know what I mean? It wasn't like we were friends, but I knew him, and I knew
I used to call him Hooky. Remember that?
Yeah.
Hooky.
Yeah. But like this is you start here and it goes from there, and then sophomore year, junior year, I got in ROTC real big with the drill team and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, and no offense to Leesburg High School, but we weren't ever winning. And I was like, sophomore year when I busted the ribs, I was like, yeah, I really don't think I'm gonna, put myself on the line anymore for this.
Yeah.
It wasn't fun anymore,
Yeah,
but I know that the one story we'll talk about, but I had a couple questions. So that was your second year teaching, pretty much.
Yeah, we not even a year because I started in October. So yeah.
Okay. What I know you were going to college for like your master's and all that while you were a teacher, and that was UCF. Is that the same college you went to after high school, or did you go somewhere else?
When I was a senior in college, I had an offer to go walk on to University of Kentucky, and a couple other offers at some NAI schools in Chicago and whatever. And I came down to Florida on spring break and walked around UCF and saw the palm trees, and there were girls in bikinis out on the lawn. And I was like, I'm going to Florida. So that was my only choice.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I was really anxious to get out of Kentucky. I mean, I had a home life. I mean, I was living in my truck my senior year in high school after football season, and couch surfing, and just it was tough. And I wanted to get out of Dodge. My stepfather was addicted to crack, and my sister had run away, and I'd come home and our lawnmower would be gone, or table saw would be sold off, and it was just I just couldn't. And he got hooked up with some cartel guys from Mexico, and they were coming to get us, and I wasn't going anywhere in Kentucky because honestly I didn't want to be sitting around 20 years later watching my kids pass a joint around with my family. So I just got the hell out of Dodge, and I went to UCF, and I was lucky because when you're growing up in the mountains in Appalachia, where I lived on a dairy farm, there was 50% of the people in my county didn't have bathrooms in their houses, and quarter didn't have water. My neighbors had a spigot outside their back door. I mean, that's just how depressed it was in the mid 80s, late 80s. So I got an opportunity to go play football somewhere. I worked really hard in high school, and I thought, shoot, I'll be playing for the Bucks one day. And I came down to UCF, and honestly, just like you said, man, I'm dealing with back problems now that I got back in 1989. So I mean, after a year, I just decided I wasn't going to be playing for the Bucks, and I didn't really need the scholarship money afterwards. And I just became to love UCF and the culture there, and being in Florida. And my dad lived here, so I was happy, I had some support, and I got close with him again, and I just really didn't need the scholarship. After I graduated, I went to graduate school and was studying history, and my goal was to be a college professor. And I had a couple of jobs lined up at junior college at Hillsborough and Sanford and Valencia and some other places, and it just I turned my thesis in a week late. And because it was before graduation, but because I turned it in past the deadline, it's the only damn hard deadline I ever saw at the University of Central Florida. I had to wait a whole semester to get my diploma. And so my job opportunities dried up quick. And I was sitting on my couch in Orlando. My wife was a secretary in a doctor's office, and I was delivering pizza, and both of us with college degrees, and I got a master's or almost got one. And I saw on TV this video of the teacher at Leesburg High School being arrested for having an affair with one of the students. And, my immediate reaction was, they're hiring.
Yes.
So I sent my resume over, and, I mailed it because, we didn't have email back then. I mailed it.
Mhm.
It got stuck in the mail without enough postage. It came back a couple of times, which honestly, Travis, it really is divine intervention or something, because they had hired a guy who lasted about 4 days and he quit. They hired another guy and he lasted about a day and he quit. And the class was so out of control that when my packet was going back and forth between, Leesburg and where I was living in Orlando, it just landed on his desk after the day that this fourth teacher threw his keys on the table and walked away. And I'll take it. I would have done anything, at that point. I was desperate.
Yeah.
And the principal called me up and said, "Hey, you want to come in for an interview?" And I was hired and put in the classroom within a week. And it was interesting because they'd had no teacher in there for 7 weeks, and newspapers were stacked up even with the windows. I don't know if you remember the old annex, but they had windows that were up high. And I mean, no textbooks, nobody had a pencil. Kids hadn't come to class in weeks, and I really had my work cut out for me. And I earned my money that first year, all $20,000 of it. And then eventually I started coaching sports and started working at Lake Sumter once I got my master's degree conferred, and I worked there for about 6 years at night. And I was just lucky. I thank God for Leesburg High School every day. And I tell people even today, even though I'm a Hawk, if you broke my leg, orange blood would come out of it. That's how much I love that community and the school.
Yeah. And I mean, that would have been Mr. McLeod. This is Mr. McLeod.
Yeah.
Very nice man. Very nice man.
Yeah, he passed away, unfortunately.
Yep.
A few years ago, but yeah, he changed my life. I'll never forget him.
I remember going from Oak Park Middle to high school, and I was like, okay, I get this. All right, it's a lot bigger, but my sister was a senior, so I'm okay. No big deal. I knew what teachers each teach about everybody.
More like nobody left in those days.
Yeah, they gave me the information I needed. But yeah. But like I said, and then when did you, because weren't you like AP and then senior? I know you taught seniors because the American government, but did you always just teach that?
No, it's weird because my first year, like what I can say at Leesburg, nobody left. He either died or retired, and that was it. But after my first year, I kind of got lucky. A lot of people retired, and I leapt up the seniority ladder. I mean, people were really still pissed at me years later about it. But my second year, I started teaching more like juniors and seniors, and then it got to the point where I was just doing AP classes and seniors, and so I was blessed to be able to, like, every senior class that went through there for 10 years. I mean, I had the opportunity to teach almost every kid. It's very unusual to have a kid that went through that school for 10 years that I didn't. God, Robbie Robinson, I taught him high school and 2 semesters of college. I had the opportunity to reach out and be a part of that educational process for a lot of people.
Yeah, because I had I could say this because I don't have to say a name, but there was the worst science experience of my life with this teacher who happened to be, right there by your your classroom. So every day, I'd be like, hello, hey, what are you doing? Waiting on the teacher to get here,
Mm.
And then they moved him in the main building. And,
Mhm.
and I it was the worst experience my sophomore year with him. And so when I have to retake the class my junior year or my sophomore year, I have him I failed freshman science because I didn't do any work.
Yeah.
I had straight A's in every class but science. But so my sophomore year, I took 2 sciences. I took earth space and then biology because they weren't stepping stones. They didn't
Yeah.
matter. And I had the exact same person twice.
Hey, poor guy. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and we didn't get along very well.
It took like 10 years to fire that guy. He finally got fired.
Did he? I remember our senior year, his wife passed away.
Yeah.
And he was gone a lot. He was gone
worse.
a lot. So our senior year, we had nothing but substitutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I had him twice.
Poor guy.
So I was like, woo, I'm passing this class.
Yeah, it was rough. He eventually got fired. So, I mean, unless you did something really bad, like date one of your students, he's the only teacher I've ever been seen fired for cause.
Yeah.
Ever.
I remember he always thought he was going to be the next Kung Fu master. I was like, whatever. I don't care how big of a Kung Fu master you are. I'd put you in your place quick. But so in this show, we talk a lot of stuff. So you got a scholarship. That's funny. I never knew that kind of stuff about you. Like we've been able to have this amazing, 25 something year friendship, but I never knew that about your home life. So obviously those things make us, but do you think that has a lot to do with why you're teaching? You want to be that person and even educating, you want to be that person because you don't know what their home life is like, because you always were that smile, that person. And it didn't matter who you were or where you were in the status quo or anything. You always had that ability to know that, wow, yesterday that person was talking to this person. Now today, this person's heads down and they're being quiet. Like, what's up?
Well, I grew up with a lot of cousins and nephews and little kids around me. And so I always liked being around kids, and, all my family would gather to party on the weekends. It was my job to babysit, 12 kids on our farm. And, I had to entertain them, and I got good at it. And also, I am patient. But I fell into teaching, man. It was never like I told you a minute ago, it wasn't my plan to work at a high school. I just fell into it. And I found out real quick, I think my gift is I can have a rapport with students. And, that first year tested me. I mean, but I realized that I had a knack for it. And also I know my subject really well. I mean, and there were some great teachers there that mentored me, like John Arnold and Charlie Rowe and, Pete LeClaire and John Cook. There were a lot of guys there, that Buddy Lowe, even the great baseball coach at Leesburg, who won a couple state championships. I mean, I just had a lot of people to look up to. But John Arnold told me my first year of teaching that he's like, just remember, if you want kids to perform for you, they have to know that you're on your side. And sometimes I can't, especially when I was teaching AP, I got really bitter with some of the kids about their lack of effort, especially their senior year. But I think they always knew I loved them. And even today, whenever a kid comes into my office, I'm an assistant principal now. Whenever a kid comes to my office, I meet them at the door with a handshake. I give them a hug when they leave, even if they're suspended. I never fuss at a kid.
Yeah.
Unless they know that I care about them. Unless they do something really crazy, something really goofy, I might raise my voice. But no, man, I've been doing this 25 years in Lake County, and I still love it. COVID's tested us too. That's changing the world.
Yeah.
But administration, like I never really planned on being an administrator either. It got to the point where I was tired of standing around a water cooler bitching about everything in education, and you know, I just wanted to do something a little different. But really, I needed to make a little bit more money. I had little kids and stuff to pay for and things like that. So I got into administration, and I've been doing that for about 13, 14 years now. So, you know, I've been blessed.
Are you all right with that? The story I talked about with, is that all right if I share it?
Yeah.
All right.
I get to brag about my wife a little bit.
Yeah. So my senior year, I'm finally in Coach Rice's class. I'm so excited. I mean, and I'm not exaggerating. I always had a class right next to his class every year.
I think it was your junior year, man. I think it was American history.
It was American government.
Yeah, I probably had you for that for sure.
Yeah,
definitely.
I had you both. Was it junior? Yeah, because I had you twice. But I loved history, and you had the green guys and the blue guys, or the red guys and the blue guys.
Yeah.
And you're talking about the story, and you had this map out, and you had them come, and you're like, and they swarmed them this way, and then this one was like pew pew pew, and there's just a little army man, and you're telling this story about it, and I got a perfect score in that test because I could hear everything you were saying. I'm like, oh, okay,
yeah,
and never once. You might say, okay, we're going to do this chapter or this, whatever. Read ahead, get ready. But then you turn around and you'd be like writing things on the board. You'd be talking about it. You were telling stories of the history. You know what I mean? It was like watching TV, and you're so animated, and it was amazing. And then you would do the Jeopardy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, hey.
Yeah, I didn't sit down a lot during those days.
No,
my theory was if you want to learn something, you got to really hear it about 5 times. And
yeah,
you know, I wanted everybody to be exposed to it a lot. And playing with those army men, I remember what I had you guys do was draw maps on poster boards of the Battle of Boston. And I had you guys play with the men and line them up foot to foot, shoulder to shoulder, like the Revolutionary War soldiers did. And I mean, it was something I would have probably been better for a middle school or an elementary school. But I tell you what, I mean, we're talking about it 25 years later. I must have done something right.
You see that one? It says, he used to say, I can't believe they pay me to talk about this stuff. That's from Whitney. Oh, man. It's good stuff.
I did say that.
Yeah.
I used to say suckers. They pay me money.
Yeah. That's funny. Oh, man. But yeah, so junior, senior year is in that area. And so you have this. The other thing was if you wore anything that said UCF or you brought in anything that said UCF, you would get extra credit on your test that day, on test days.
I still got a lot of that stuff in my office to this day. Little teddy bears. I still got it.
Because we would communicate all those years, even when I was in your class, just between classes, I'd be just, hey, okay, bye, I gotta go. I instead said, well, if I brought a UCF shirt or something, that'll get me a point. But if I came in with a Shakira poster, that would get me a lot more points, I thought. It went well at first, but I don't think it went well then after. So this is a first impression that I think your wife probably got of me. Your student got you a Shakira poster? Who is this guy? But then, so now comes this. So you were always, like you said, greeting everybody. We weren't coming into your classroom. You were there, bringing us into your classroom, you know, and you weren't at the door. You were behind your desk, sitting. And I'm like, okay. And you're just like, come on, sit down. Start reading. And he had something written on the board. I'm like, okay. And I sat in the back, probably because you didn't want me to annoy you too much. So you pushed me furthest away.
Yeah, that was a tough day.
Yeah. So I could tell something was wrong with you. And I'm like, all right. So I just leaned over to the desk and said, are you all right? And you're like, nope. And you walked outside for a minute. You guys keep your nuts, gotta get some air. And I'm like, I
Something
don't know if
right.
I'm overstepping my boundary, but I'm not leaving it like that, you know. So I walked over outside, and you're standing outside, and you're just like like that, woosawing. And I said, "Is everything all right?" And you said, "No. Um, my wife finally got pregnant, and the doctors are saying that they want to abort it because something was wrong, or
Hmm.
and I said, well, what's wrong with the child? You know, they don't know. They just it was like something weird. It was like something. It wasn't even. It was their reasoning.
They
The
thought it was
size, or
they thought it was an ectopic pregnancy
that's right.
where the egg gets stuck in the fallopian tube, and then
Yeah,
eventually, once it matures to a certain point, it ruptures the fallopian tube and kills the
yeah,
mother. So the only option really is to abort the
yeah.
baby.
And so I said, well, so they know it's there. Well, no, they think it is, and if it is, this is going to happen. So they want to abort now. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I'm going to share you a personal story. So I told you my personal story. My personal story. Here you go, guys. So I am an IUD baby. My mom and dad had two kids. They're 9.5 months apart, or 10.5 months
Hmm.
apart, Irish twins. And then me. Oops. Because she had an IUD, so she wouldn't get pregnant. Well, she got pregnant with me, and they said, well, when they pull the IUD out, it's going to kill the baby because it's, you know, it's going to rupture its spine, something, when the baby will die. And so we're just going to do an abortion. I mean, my mom's like, no. So the baby's okay right now. Yes. But when it comes, so we're going to take it out, and then we're going to wait and see what happens. And they're like, well, it's going to die. You're going to give birth to a dead baby. She's like, well, but you don't know that for sure. Well, most of the time that happens, but that's not good enough for me. Most of the time isn't an answer. So they pull the IUD out, and my mom's still there. I'm still there. And they're like, well, he's still there, but you know, he's going to die any day. She's like, well, that's something we're going to have to do. You can't get stressed. You can't do this. Anything you do is going to kill the baby. So my mom was bedridden pretty much like 8 months of her pregnancy.
Ooh.
And I was the biggest baby she had, 9 pounds, 10 ounce, or 9 pounds, almost 10 ounces, 10 pounds, just shy of 10 pounds. But I'm alive. Nothing wrong with me. Well, some people don't agree, but but so I told you that story to I said, listen, tell your wife the doctors are full of shit. They don't know. If they don't know something, they're going to go with the best case scenario and tell you the worst news, because if they're wrong, it's a miracle. But if
they're
right,
never
like,
wrong.
told you.
No.
Yeah, so that's what they do, and especially in this case. I said, but they don't have control of it at all. And I know the next day you came in, you had a little pep in your step, and you're like, she's going for it. She's gonna stay with it, and we're not gonna abort it. And
I don't remember the exact sequence of the way things were, because I was kind of out of it. And I just remember we went for a pregnancy test, and we were in Winter Park. I don't know why the heck we went all the way to Winter Park, but you know, they came in, and the doctor and the nurse told us the news, and they're like, we need to take her over to the emergency room right now. And I just remembered, like, 5 seconds earlier, I was having some kind of panic attack because I was so excited about having a baby. And you know, I was about ready to call my mother, and he comes in and just pulls the rug out from under us. And it was, you know, and I was like, Doc, can we wait a day? Like, can we wait a day or two before we do this? I mean, he's like, we really need to do it now. And I was like, okay, so if the baby keeps growing, what are the chances it's going to burst her fallopian tube in 2 days? I mean, we're the first 6 weeks of the baby.
Yep.
And I when I came back to work, man, I just, I had to wait for the test results to come back, and they called me on the phone and said, "Oh, the test results are conclusive. We need to do this." And I just, after talking to you, I called the doctor. I was like, "Listen, there's a testing place right here. We'll go do another test and just triple check." And shit, we went and did a triple test, and the doctor was wrong. Like, the baby wasn't in the fallopian tube. They just used two different test kits, like apples and oranges, different companies, like Pfizer versus Moderna, and they made a mistake. Like, and I didn't blame the doctor for it. I mean, I understood. Yeah. But he never said he was wrong. Like, never. The only thing he did was he didn't charge us for that doctor's appointment. That's the only thing he did. But you're right, man. I mean, that my mother always said.
Yeah. Because
I was devastated.
It was just like, it was something that I went through and I knew about, that I could share with you and say, like you said, give it a day. Like, it's not big enough to explode the fallopian tube yet, And I'll never forget when you came in with all the new information. You were so happy.
I was.
And then
there were a lot of faculty members. Yeah, there were a lot of faculty members that had written me cards and condolences. And I came back to work. I'm like, she's okay. It was really, really.
That is the one of the first hugs that I got from you, by the way, was that day when you came back, because I came around the corner. You're like this big smile, ear to ear. You're like, hello. But it's just one of those stories that I've always like shared with people that have been in crisis, and especially with that, in those kind of crises. It's because it's so brand new, it's so hard, but they're just gonna they're gonna say the worst, because if they're wrong, it doesn't look bad because you're happy that they're wrong. And so I always remember, and like I remember when you posted this, you graduated high school, and I was like, wait, what? Wait, what? And then she went to college. Wait, what? No, that can't be right.
Yeah.
Isn't she still pregnant with her?
She'll be 22 next month, in about a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then fast forward a couple years, first thing I did was Coach Rice. Yes, it's Travis. I'm gonna have a kid. like it was exciting. I got to call you and tell you I'm gonna have a kid.
Lorelei, remember it?
Yeah. And I did it every time. And then I remember you're like, all right, well, this is baby number 5. Are you going to stop yet? I think you've had too many kids, Travis. It's I'm getting tired of this phone call. Okay.
No, I never get tired.
I know. But, and it was always one of those things is like, I remember like talking about it, like telling my wife about it. She was like, so you called him I was like, yeah, it was just
every couple weeks.
Yeah. And then we, being an adult, you have life and stuff. But every time I found out I was going to be a dad, he was one of the first 5 people that were called. Because
you also called me when you got a new dining room table. So it was.
I did. That's true.
It wasn't just that.
It was. That was my first house, But
I enjoyed our chats.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. But yeah, I just always remember those kind of stories. And like I said, that when we're talking about this, it just kind of makes me not laugh, but I've always been that person. You know what I mean? I've always been that, hey, let me share you what something happened to me. It's not exactly what you're going through, but it's similar, and it might help you through this. And even in a high school kid, I was doing it. Like, that's why I think this is so natural for me, is because all I'm doing is being myself.
I think my mother used to say that God is in the people placing business, and at that moment, He placed you just in the right place at the right time. I mean, it happens. It's happened, a few times in my life where I feel like things have come together that weren't naturally supposed to happen. things happen for a reason. And, you know, I remember one time I was at my wife's synagogue and I was cutting up onions for tuna fish for a festival night or something. It's the synagogue on Center Street, right near the First Baptist Church.
Okay.
And I was sitting there cutting up these onions, and the lady sitting next to me was a Holocaust survivor. And she told me her story, and she had never told her children, you know, like she hadn't told anybody her story in forever. Okay. I mean, she was living in Poland, and the Nazis came, and she and her sister were like 12 and 13. And they went to a concentration camp. And she's telling me the story about how they went out for a wood chopping party, and they cut wood, but the two of them escaped. And then they spent the rest of the year living in pig troughs, eating food out of pig troughs. And then they joined the underground, the Polish underground, and fought with them till the end of the war, and then walked to Israel. And then when they got to Israel, they had to fight 5 wars against the Arabs, you know. And I said, well, what did you do after that? She's like, well, I married my sergeant and moved to Brooklyn. So, you know, long story short, you know, she ends up in Leesburg, living out at Hawthorne, and I meet her, and she's telling me, like, you know, the horrors of what's it like to survive in a concentration camp. It's not sexy like they make the movies look, you know. It's that she said the things that people would do to survive. You know, she goes, when I left that wood chopping party with my sister, I knew that there were going to be reprisals, that, you know, a lot of my people in my barracks were going to be shot. But she said, I've seen them do anything to survive. I've already seen them do things that were unspeakable. So she goes, I didn't feel bad about it to a certain extent. But, you know, she's telling me this story about eating out of pig troughs. When you're a Jew, that's the most unspeakable thing in the world. And anyways, she's like, I don't know why I tell you this. I haven't told anybody in my family these stories. You know, her husband had passed. So, you know, I felt like at that moment in time, she needed to tell somebody. And for those of you guys that remember Mr. Rabbi Malarski, just before he died, he told his son, Freddie, his Holocaust story. And, you know, at some point you got to let that stuff out. And I think God put me there for a reason.
Yeah.
Like I was there to hear her story and remember it. And I'll never forget it.
It's just one. It's like it's one of those things. You give off that comfort. You know, people just feel comfortable around you because it's since you're sincere. You're not being nice to me because you want me to do something in return. You know, you're being nice to me because that's what you do.
Well,
you know,
like I said, sometimes you got to be in the right place at the right time. As an administrator, I see things a lot differently than when I was in a classroom. You know, I never knew what Miss Mott and Mr. Durius and a lot of those administrators that I thought were just sitting in their offices with their feet up. I never really saw what they're dealing with. My first day as an assistant principal, I found a kid with a butcher knife in his car, which was like 12 inches long. A couple days later, I caught 2 kids having sex out in the parking lot. You know, I see stuff on the other side, but the biggest thing is, you know, when students are abused, you know, by their family members or by neighbor. I mean, it's just really, you know, you got to really dig deep when you deal with that kind of negativeness every day. And, you know, I always ask for prayers and support. And sometimes, you know, I just got to talk to somebody and kind of lay it out there.
Yeah. And it's hard when you're, you know, my wife always says she's an empath, and I got lucky not to be an empath, but to be that person that people do talk to. But I have that skin to where I can not let it soak in, but it does sometimes. You know, it does affect me. It does, you know. But being a police officer for so long and the things we had to see, that affected my personality big time.
I can't imagine.
And at home, it wasn't so bad because I knew, okay, I can go to Legends Cafe because I know everybody there. And if anything were to break out, all I have to do is back up. You know what I mean? I knew the owners were going to step up and handle it, you know? I felt comfortable at Legends with Nate and Pat and all them. Ramshackles was fine. I could go to Ramshackles every once in a while because usually it's everybody's there and there's a firefighter or a cop or something, but they're not going to let stuff happen. They're going to end whatever happens fast. But other places, I was like, I don't know if I want to be here because if my kid is with me and somebody sees me and wants to be stupid. So it started affecting me and started making me stay in. And then when I moved from Florida, I really noticed it, like big time, because there, what I would do there, like, I'd go to Legends and karaoke, woo,
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that here because I'd be like, "Who? What, you touched me? What do you want? Oh, hey man, nice to meet you. What do you want?" Like it was very, very, very hard, and it was stopping who I was. It was stopping me from being that person. So this is a good one. How did you handle the kids during 9/11?
Oh, wow. That was a tough one because I was like gung-ho America. I was trying to make everybody in my classes good Americans. And, it was at that point, it was tough for me to say, hey, go join the Army when you literally might have to go to war. It was, I don't know, man. I had a baby, like it was 9/11 was, tough to deal with. I mean, we were locking our doors. We were on guard all the time. And, we had some students go to war and some of them didn't come back. It was tough to deal with. First thing I did was I went to the Army recruiter and tried to join the Army. And he said,
I remember you told me that.
He said, you're too fat. So anyways, I spent the next year, I lost 75, 80 pounds. And I came back. I was like, okay, I'm ready. Now, remember, I got a little baby, I had a wife and she was about ready to kill me. And they said, you're too old. when I showed back up, you're too old. So I tried to do right by our country, but I just didn't.
So yeah, that definitely tested you.
Yeah. The kids were tough though. I mean, you guys didn't really know what was going on and why it was going on. And
I was sitting in ROTC when the colonel walks out of the back, and he never comes out of the back. Colonel Esclique walks out and says, "Turn the TV on. Someone's about to lose their job. Some idiot air traffic controller just ran a plane into the tower." And so we turn it on, and then here comes the second one, and Sergeant Coons was like, quiet, and Colonel is like, walks in the back, and Colonel goes, you guys might want to kiss your mommy and daddies goodbye because y'all are going to war.
Oh, Jesus.
All you boys, be ready. They're bringing the draft back.
A lot of them did.
Yeah.
Hey, this next question about your sister, man. I love that.
That's
question.
My wife.
Oh, is it your wife? Sorry, darling.
Yeah, that's Ashley.
That's one of my favorite. That's a great question. When I was in the classroom, I had an AP class with some of the smartest students that ever went through Leesburg. And I caught them cheating. And they stole my test bank out of my desk when I was at the door, because I was always outside the door greeting everybody. They went in and stole my test book. And these were kids that I thought were like my own kids. And they passed it around to the whole class, and the class used it. And not all of them, but most of them. Because, I mean, AP's hard, and these kids got a lot of pressure to make good grades. Well, anyways, I was like, screw teaching, I'm out. I'm done. And I went and applied to graduate school to go get a degree in leadership. And the thing is over the next 9 months, 18 months, I took all these classes in education that I never took because I didn't get an education degree when I was in college. I took classes about education, about leadership, and how to motivate people. And it made me the best teacher that I ever was. At the end of my career, I think that I was doing better than I ever was. And I just, once again, I think something they put that adversity in my path, and maybe I didn't want to be a teacher anymore. But when it was all over, I was the best teacher ever, and it's my family. I make a good living, and it changed my life forever. So I just want to let those guys know I don't hold any grudges. They actually helped me.
Yeah, I remember that because we came in and you're like, so we're gonna have a different test because the last class cheated, and I was like, cheated? How? All you had to do was write down every single Jeopardy question because that is the test. The day before, you just played Jeopardy, which is the test.
Yeah.
How? What do you mean cheat? You understand?
Try to make it so you can pass. Yeah.
Yeah, Jeopardy. The 20 questions Jeopardy. Wow, 25 questions. 20 of those are Jeopardy questions.
AP classes are a little different though. It was hard. It was hard.
That's crazy. Oh wait, she's got another one. What is one of the moments that confirmed for you that you had made the right choice?
Wow, I don't know.
Thank you, babe,
that's a tough
getting
question.
good at this.
Man, I went and got my hair cut the other day, and it's a girl that graduated about the same time you do. I don't know if you know Amanda.
Yep,
I don't know. Anyways, she was one of the few girls that got she got pregnant in high school, and my wife was getting her hair done, and I was like, hey, Amanda, I was here with Jennifer, and I was like, would you mind, for old time's sakes, would you cut my hair? And she said, no problem. And she didn't have to. I'm sure she had a whole book of people lined up to come in. And, when she was cutting my hair, she was like, you know what, Coach Rice, you're the only teacher that looked at me a certain kind of way when you found out I was pregnant. You were like helpful and wanted to help me get diapers and give you some of my daughter's, stuff that she had grown out of. And she goes, that really meant a lot. And it's been 20 years. I didn't know that I had made that impact on her. It just was just the way I was, so many kids in my family, you always passed around clothes, packet plays and stuff like that. But, it's moments like that really mean a lot. I went to a 20-year class reunion a few months ago. I can't remember what class it was, but it's like Laura Floyd and a whole bunch of girls.
It was last year.
Yeah. And I had a kid tell me, like one time you said this to me, and I was like, God, that doesn't sound like something negative. And I was like, it doesn't sound like something I'd say. But I must have said it, and I felt terrible about that. I'd like to think that I made more good than bad, but I know a lot of people that I worked with would give two shits what somebody would say, what they said to kids. So, anyways, I try to learn from my mistakes, but it really does mean a lot when somebody says, hey, you did a really great job. I appreciate that.
There was only one person that I took pictures with when I graduated that wasn't my family members or my close friends. So let me bring this one in. I tried to download it too.
Who is that guy?
But,
who is that guy?
Look at that. Let me see if I can't get this as a comment or something. Hold on. Let's see. Maybe there we go. See if Ashley can actually post those two photos for me as a comment. I know she's watching, so yep, she just read it. I just said post them as a comment. So there's one, and then there's the other. So you give me a nice little kiss on the cheek because I graduated, and we're not really touching. There's no connection. It is a friendship fake kiss, guys. So let's not, go there. That's it. But if you can see, she's gonna post it. See if we can show it. Oh, it came up as a. See if you can post it as a photo. It didn't work. But I don't know why it's not letting me load it. I have like the biggest smile on my face.
Yeah, it was a good night.
And yeah, I graduated, but I was so like 2002 right there, right? 2002, that's when we graduated. It was that friendship. It was that this person is what, why I was excited, because you were there, you shared it, I met you as a freshman, like I said. And then I know after we left, you did a lot more, like because you were taking all those classes. I know you were the big one that started where people had incoming freshmen had like a teacher or administration.
And yeah.
You started that stuff.
Yeah. I started the freshman orientation. We used to call it the Institute. And I used the federal grant and kids would come. First year we only had 100 kids that came. Then the next year we had every freshman in the city came, and they'd come in with groups, and we'd have a teacher mentor and a student mentor, and they would spend 3 days with them, and we would do stuff like make solar pizza ovens, and we'd go out to we'd go to Lake Sumter and do the ropes course and do all that team building stuff. I mean, it really was kind of special. And honestly, every high school in Lake County does it now, or something similar because of that. And when I'm retired and gone, it'll be a legacy that I'll be able to look back on. Leesburg still does it really well.
I mean, that's awesome. I remember of life, later on in life when I was just starting off as a police officer, I got to talk with you, and by then you were the principal of like the assistant principal of like the younger grades or something.
Yeah, I was AP2 is what they called it.
Yeah. So I remember hearing about it, and I was like, that's really cool. It's kind of like hey, freshman, we got your back. It's not going to be easy, and obviously, there's like in anything, some teachers probably did it way better than others, but I just remember thinking that's so Coach Rice. That's something, because that's the way you always have been. Like you said, you didn't, they won't upload. I'll get them. I'll post them on the Facebook for y'all to see. But you were always that person anyway. So it was like you were just holding your counterparts accountable to say, hey, I'm teaching up here because that's the way like you said, my mentors told me to do, and all these things I'm learning, you need to come up here. I don't want to go to a school that's already here. I like my school. I want my school to come here. And that's what you did. You did it with the high school. Being a police officer, dealing with high school, fights and all that kind of thing. I could go and say, I need this. And they'd be like, oh, this is this person. Let me get there. And they're in this class. How's that? That's their mentor. I'm like, what? This is amazing. Like,
yeah,
it was accountability. You were able to say, okay, it was good stuff.
Yeah, we met with those kids. We met twice a week, minimum.
And was it all like the older teachers, or was it like freshman teachers too? Or
no, we usually got a mix of kids. It wasn't just like one grade level. Like my mentor group that I met with twice a week, they were all grade levels, and so I would be with them for all 4 years. And there'd be seniors in the group, and there'd be freshmen. So the idea was that they would, help each other out. And I mean, it didn't work out like that exactly every time, but it worked out a lot.
Worked out pretty good.
Yeah, and when I went to my second high school, I went to Mineola. They had the same thing. They adopted it.
That's funny. You're like, oh, yeah. I heard the guy that made this up was pretty smart.
Yeah, advisory. Yeah.
They're like, we're going to teach you this programming one. I was like, I wrote the book.
You know anything about this? Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote the book on that. That's funny. So if you weren't going to be a teacher, what would you have been? I know you said college professor.
I wanted to teach college. Yeah, I mean, that was my goal. I was a history major and got my master's degrees in history. And, my goal was to eventually get a PhD in history. But honestly, the master's degree burned me out. I mean, I had to write a 167-page book I wrote about Savannah, Georgia, and I had to take a foreign language exam and a 4-hour written exam. I mean, by the time I got done with it, I was done reading history books. Even to this day, I rarely read history books. because it just kind of
No
burned me
thanks.
out.
Yeah.
And honestly, I had a lot of fun. I remember when I got my first job at Leesburg, they were paying me $20,000 a year. I thought, oh my God, this is all the money in the world. How am I going to spend it all? Like I found out quick it's really easy to spend $20,000 a year. But it was teaching was always fun. I just remember after 10, 12 years of teaching, I was making this with a master's degree and 10 years of teaching experience. I was making the same money as people coming right out of college. And at that point, I was like, I got to do something else to provide for my family a little better. That's the only reason why I left teaching. And I'll be back. I'm going to retire in 5 years. I'll probably go teach somewhere else.
So when you retire, do you want to say, even though instead of like teaching, what about because you've been such an influence in Lake County, what about stepping up and being something bigger to where you have more of a authoritative role? You don't want to do that side of it?
I've interviewed for principal positions. I've been passed over a couple times, and it's really heart-wrenching when that happens.
No, I'm talking about like school board,
No. Well, I mean, you never know. They could do worse at the school board level. They could do worse.
To me, I feel like if you did the same thing in school board that you did with school, all the people would drink the Kool-Aid, and be like, "Oh, this is
great analogy."
Yeah, right. They'd all be drinking that Kool-Aid and be like, "Oh, okay," and then that will trickle down, and you know what I mean? Because it always does. It trickles from the top. But I did post the photos on our page, and I tagged you, so it's just not on this for some reason. Well, let me post it here. But I keep getting emails and text messages about people asking me questions.
Who is that kid?
Let's see. So I have your. Oh yeah. So what does Libby do now?
She's a college student, and hopefully she'll go to UCF in the fall. So, and she's been a substitute teacher for the last few months while she goes to school. So she's doing well. My other son's got a baseball scholarship up in Kentucky, ironically. And Samuel's in Georgetown, Kentucky, going to school, and I'm excited. He's home for the summer, so we got to hang out a little bit.
Yeah, I saw the photos. Oh, wait, it's summertime, so does that mean we're going to see more pool photos?
Maybe.
I love the pool photos. Just relaxing in the pool.
Yeah, good times.
That's good stuff. But I know, we had talked about this. We talked about having you as the third person or fourth person on the show, and with the work, and then happened, and then I got back on track, and then my health, and I just was like, okay, I need to, now that I'm able to actually stare at a screen long enough to, do this kind of stuff. I wanted to get you on, and like I said, you just because you weren't an alcoholic, you weren't this, you weren't that, but you grew up in that environment. It affected you, and you didn't turn out that way. And that's the one thing I've always said to my kids is, I might have a beer or two with my friends, like when John Close would come home from, Afghanistan. He'd come over, we'd have a beer, we'd chat. If my dad comes and visits, we'd sit down and have a beer. My brother, it's just those kind of things. But I've never been a heavy drinker. But I've seen, being a police officer, what it does, that and drugs and all that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I told my kids that you don't have to be, like my two older ones, just because their mother was, and they, when Brianna was 6 months old and she left, I told Brianna and Laura, you don't have to be like that. Just because she did it doesn't mean you're going to do it. But if you don't, if you want to and just blame it on them, then that's on you. But you can't say, well, I do this because of that. You chose to do this.
Yeah,
that way.
in there.
But yeah. And, you know, I grew up with a parent that would have a beer or two or sing karaoke, and he was fine. Never violent, just funny. And then the other parent didn't drink at all, as you all saw my first show, my uncle, you know, because her parents were abusive alcoholics. So my mom never drank. And so I had two complete, like, I could see how it's bad, but I can also see if you just have it in moderation once in a while, it's okay. And then drugs was always out, you know, it's like, no, don't do drugs, you know, which is weird. How are you finding that? I know it's past our time, but in Florida, I don't know. Maryland, it's not legal yet. It's medical or whatever. But I know when they changed the rule for smoking to 21, which blew my mind. No vote. It just kind of snuck through there. Woo, you know?
Yeah.
But because they wanted to make that all part of weed. That's what that was. That was the sneaky in there. That way it's all under smoke. But has that been playing into effect in schools yet? In Florida?
I have kids that come to school high and they show you their marijuana card. And I try to explain to them that's not a license to get high at school. So a lot of these kids just don't get the concept that, you know, the marijuana card is to be used, you know, it's still a school board policy. You can't have that stuff. The vape oil is absolutely everywhere. I mean, it's in every bathroom, every class change, every period, every day in every high school in Florida.
Yeah, you walk through and you smell donuts everywhere.
Well, it's just
Krispy Kremes and
I walk, you know, when I was at Leesburg as an administrator, I, you know, busted a lot of kids with drugs because the weed was just freaking everywhere. I mean, it just was everywhere. And when I came to Mineola, it wasn't quite as bad, but it's getting. I could just walk in the bathroom and look around the corner, and I could bust kids every day, every period. And my principal was very adamant that I do that. So I started to get a lot of angst, to use a better word, from the students because I was really interfering with their downtime in the bathrooms. But it's gotten to the point where it's really bad. You know, you can't teach a kid if they're stoned. I mean, it's just plain and simple. You could say you learn when you're stoned, but you really don't. And you know, do it after school is what I tell them. Like, if you insist on doing it, can't you just get high and do it on the street? You know, like they used to do.
Yeah.
But that vape oil is just so easy to get and so easy to use, and
it
so
doesn't
hard to
smell.
catch them.
Yeah, like it doesn't smell like weed. It smells different because they have scents and flavors and.
I can tell you some stories. It's a problem. It's a problem, and it's you know, it's not rich kids, poor kids, white, black. It's just an issue across the board.
Yeah, I've been dealing with the same. It's like, you know, when you have kids, so you set these rules. Here's the boundaries. You know, my goal was to make sure my children graduate high school. That's my goal as a parent. Two of them. So far, the first oldest two, they've graduated. 2 down, 4 to go, right? Woo. So, and and those two were ones I raised as a single dad. So it was a very proud moment when, you know what I mean? When they both graduated. But it's the battle. It's everybody's doing it. I understand everybody's doing it, but it's still illegal. So until they say it's legal, and like you can go to Colorado and smoke, you can go to Washington, D.C., walk around, smoke all you want, but it's only legal in that area. It's not federally legal. So like if you piss somebody off, they can still hit you for it. And that's why I tell them, it's like, you can't get caught in that gray area in public. It's not smart. It's stupid. And you know, the minute you crash into somebody and you're high as a kite, you know, I have a medical card.
You lose the moral high ground.
Yeah. Oh, well, thanks. Take your medical card to jail because you're not supposed to operate under the influence. That's what it says on your medical card, moron. But that's right now.
Shakespeare.
I haven't driven in months because of this whole seizure thing from my vacay and the blood clots. I'm on all these meds. I can't drive, and it's just driving me crazy, literally, because I'm not allowed to drive. And I'm like, I've been driving since I was 15 years old. Before that, and now I can't drive. You know, it's like,
I'm sorry to hear it, man.
But you know, the minute it's that whole thing I was talking today is I was like, oh, I'm gonna run the store. It's only like right around the corner. And legally, they don't know. The cops wouldn't know that I'm not allowed to drive. But the minute something bad happens, they're gonna be like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, you got to live with that.
Yeah. So it's like it's right now I'm just passenger. Yeah. But
well, good thing you have
Coach
plenty of
Rice-
kids to drive you around.
I know. Well, one of them is in Florida right now visiting, so she needs to hurry up and get back. I lost my designated driver. But I'm so happy to have you on here. I'm just blessed to still be able to have a great friendship with you all these years.
Yeah, in a minute.
And you know, watching your kids go to college and grow up, it's kind of cool. It's like, oh, yeah. I remember when.
Yeah.
But I appreciate it, and I know a lot of people were excited. Like I said, I got a lot of comments from people asking before the show. You know, I said, no, it'll be live. It'll be live. So.
Well, I appreciate it, and it was good hearing from Monica and Roxy and all of them reaching out to me.
Yeah.
And I'm Facebook friends with a lot of people, and you know, I friend people and they don't know who Roger Lawrence is, and I usually have to send them a message. Hey, it's Coach Rice. You owe me a beer. I've just friended you, so it's nice to reach out.
And Sean, he does remember you. He does. Sean Stern.
Ben Bailey, remember him? Oh, State. Yes, yeah, he was a good guy.
Ben Bailey, he jumped on too.
He jumped on Ben Bailey.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Good man.
It's good stuff. Hi,
Yeah.
Ben Bailey.
Well, listen, I appreciate it. It was fun.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And are you guys done with school there? Because we have like 2 more weeks, I think.
No, we're done here. We finished Friday, and
Okay.
I'm on contract till like the 15th, and then I get a couple weeks off, and back to the grind. But as I always said, I could be back in Kentucky milking cows.
Yeah,
I'm good.
It's true. Well, if you want to go to Hershey Park in PA, let me know. It's only like an hour drive, so
Really?
yeah, because I'm in Upper Maryland. I'm right by Maryland and Delaware. I'm up here. It's
I've been through it.
So,
All right, guys.
Well, I'll talk to you
Love
soon.
ya.
Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Keep in touch.